The PlayStation 1 and PS2 are home to some of the most weird, strange, obscure, bad, and just downright bizarre games. These were from a time of much less sophisticated game design, lower budgets on average, and much less pressure in the industry to follow the rules. As a result, you would get some extremely wacky and downright baffling games. One of these very games I stumbled upon recently is a little title called Fugitive Hunter War on Terror for the PS2. It's a game you've probably never played given its relative obscurity and very poor commercial performance at the time, and it's not just me who thinks that. Even when it released, its reviews were absolutely abysmal, and so I have to say that this is not only one of the worst games I've ever personally played, but it also has a lot of twists and turns in its development in history that seem impossible, yet everything coincided to create this absolute abomination of a video game we have today.
At the dawn of the 21st century, the number of fugitives wanted by the FBI soared to record levels. Federal agencies were overwhelmed with unsolved cases. Fugitives became more dangerous and unpredictable, and the top 10 most wanted were increasingly linked to terrorism. This emergence of worldwide terror networks caused unprecedented casualties abroad and at home. To deal with this crisis, Congress orders the creation of CIPHER, the Criminal Interdiction and Fugitive Recovery Task Force. Hosted by the State Department, CIPHER's primary objective is to hunt down the world's most elusive and dangerous fugitives and bring them in alive. Hand-picked by the military to lead CIPHER's Alpha Team, Lieutenant Jake Seaver is a veteran of counterterrorism and urban warfare. In 1999, a covert mission was launched to hunt down and capture top al-Qaeda leaders. Seaver was assigned to this mission on the Afghan-Pakistani border.
The story of Fugitive Hunter actually goes back to 1998, where a small studio called Black Ops Entertainment was starting work on a video game. And no, Black Ops Entertainment has nothing to do with the actual Black Ops games, which if they had just waited a few years and made that game instead, they could have been millionaires. Who knows what would have happened with them. Anyways, Black Ops Entertainment was working on a game in which you play as an elite secret agent for the US government, going around and hunting down wanted fugitives, including gun smugglers, drug dealers, and militia leaders. The game's premise, especially for the time, was already a touchy subject, but development continued into the year 2000, where they were at a fairly completed state with the game. That was until real-life events caught up with them. In a game already kind of about the war on terror, they had a level featuring the World Trade Center in New York City based around the tragedy in 1993. And this level was already more or less completed, but then the real big September 11th tragedy occurred at the Twin Towers World Trade Center, and subsequently this mission would be entirely cut from the game. Weirdly enough though, in the game, the US created this special task force called CIPHER, which is a fake branch of law enforcement, but the developers actually mention this as a very strange coincidence that after the September 11th attacks and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, which very closely resembles CIPHER.
It was interesting during development how much current events kind of caught up, unfortunately, to the design of our game. Even the creation of CIPHER kind of closely mimicked the creation of the Homeland Security Department, but we were there a year or two ahead of them.
Now, the game's premise was already kind of on the shocking edge and a little bit risky for its time, and people kind of looked at it as manipulating the war on terror and kind of taking advantage of that a little bit. But the back of the box goes even a step further by saying, hunt the world's most wanted fugitives, even Osama Bin Laden. And no, that's actually not a joke, but it's so much worse than you think it is.
It's out of time. Kick your ass.
But anyways, Black Ops Entertainment studio head John Body was hard at work on retooling the game and getting it shipped on consoles. There is a small difference in the US and EU versions of these games, with the EU version specifically also having Saddam Hussein as a target, but in the US version, Bin Laden is the final target of the game. Now, this got absolutely terrible reviews when it released in 2003, with IGN and GameSpot giving it a mere 3.3 out of 10 10. Genuinely awful scores. Now, to really understand why though, because I do think that it's justified, we really have to get into the gameplay itself.
I got no beef with you, dog.
Where's Weber at?
You after Webb? I'll tell you where he at. Give me some money, dog.
Here's some cash.
I'll give you the key to the warehouse.
Now get out of here.
So, the basic premise of Fugitive Hunter, as I stated earlier, is an elite secret US agent working for Cypher. Now, the main guy's name is Jake Seaver, and he works for Cypher, which is not confusing whatsoever. So, your helicopter gets shot down in Afghanistan and your whole crew dies. This is the opening 5 seconds of the game, by the way. This all happens from a black screen, essentially. So you get out, from the start, and the game essentially gives you a taste of all of the weaponry in the game right off the bat. They wanted to give you a taste of, like, the pinnacle of what the gameplay can be right at the start, which I can understand to an extent. You get to experiment with a lot of weapons, but it is bottlenecked by the really poor level design and combat. So obviously this game is a first-person shooter. I mean, it looks like any old early 2000s shooter game pre-Halo, meaning the controls absolutely stink. But this was FPS games before console really figured out how to do built-in aim assist, because Fugitive Hunter has a whole button on the controller that auto-aims for you. The guns and the animations and gunplay in general feel really rough, even for the early 2000s. Also, speaking of Halo, I'm pretty sure they stole the Halo sniper rifle sound effect straight from that game. But I made a point to mention this is an FPS game for a reason. While that might seem obvious to you watching, I did need to point it out, because once you get to the end of each and every mission where you actually find your target that you were pursuing, the game completely changes genre from an FPS to a fighting game, and not a very good one, as you'll see. So when you find the target listed at the start of the mission, you'll have to capture them by first wearing down their health and then mashing a button to quickly secure them. At first, I was getting my ass whooped in this because I was trying to play it like an actual fighting game, trying to block, space, and dodge and counterattack moves. But after some time, I realized that it's not an actual fighting game at all, and really the most effective strategy is just to completely mash buttons as fast as humanly possible to dump out damage with little regard for defense or blocking. Once I figured this out, the encounters became a cakewalk. They also do that thing where the tutorial level is also the last mission in the game, but we'll get there in a second, because the tutorial, this is where it takes place, and it's especially apparent as Bin Laden gets away after killing your boys. So then the real first mission starts in Miami, where you have to go take down some relatively low-level thugs. Once again, don't play it like a fighting game, and things go so much better for you. So there's usually 2 targets per level. You start here in Miami, take down your first target in this alley immediately. Now, to get to the second one requires you progressing and opening up new parts of the level. This is where I realized how awful the rest of the game is going to be, as progression requires you to do extremely vague and nondescript tasks that are not well designed. Now, I'm not asking for yellow paint in this game exactly, but when your prompts are entirely vague and random, and parts you need to collect have little to no logic at all, it can become extremely irritating and likely was a big turnoff to lots of people playing the game at the time. It's just genuinely poor game and level design in most areas. It's very amateur. But Jake Seaver presses on and beats up on criminals in a way that is probably not legal.
Okay, it's handcuff time.
Take a walk, Weber. Seaver, you ain't all that. You just a thug with a bag. Watch your step. Come on, man.
You might be wondering, when being shown these targets at the start of each mission, who are these people? Obviously, a few of them are real, but there's a mix of real-life criminals and some that are made-up fictional ones just to fit the story and locations. You do visit a variety of locations throughout your time, from Miami to the mountains of Utah to the remote beaches and jungles on islands, Paris, France, the streets and the catacombs, and of course, Afghanistan. On the one hand, the visuals are a product of their time, and they're not great, but they do have style. For example, you have that early 2000s Y2K aesthetic video game water that everybody knows, it's just such like an iconic piece of that time. You have these really nice blues and pinks in the Miami level and so on, but overall, even with the moderate style that the game has, it cannot excuse the abhorrent level design and also the soundtrack. I apologize for this, but I'm going to have to show you a few examples of the soundtrack in the levels because they are a violation of the eardrums.
Some health.
There's maybe like one or two tracks that I honestly don't mind. I mean, they're not pleasant to listen to, but the rest are like an actual assault on your ears. It's not good. And this is made even worse by how long you have to spend in a lot of these levels, especially the first time around, because the level design and the way you maneuver is horrible. You see, you have these like level geometry in certain places that you need to interact with in a particular way, whether that be jumping or crouching under, but absolutely nothing is there to help you understand what geo you can or cannot interact with. To say it's sloppy is an understatement, and it's better described as disastrous, I think. After like one or two levels, when the mission cuts from that FPS into a fighting game, now you would think that as a video game, perhaps as you go further, it would introduce different mechanics or fighting styles or even difficulties or move sets for different targets, right? You'd think that, but nope, each target's fight and capture sequence is exactly the same, mechanically speaking, with literally no variance to speak of.
I got a contract out on you, punk. Okay, it's handcuff time.
Have a drink. Watch your head. Spend your last years in the camp.
Alpha 1, this is Sierra 5. Fugitive is in custody at my location, proceeding to next target.
One thing I did want to mention though is that there's a couple moments where you have to like either rendezvous with this woman at the beach or like you even save this Marine POW in the last mission, and like obviously they have a certain look that you would expect from the early 2000s, but it never got like sleazy, and he doesn't even like try to make a move or anything on it. Like it's very subtle and it's low key, and it's like, yeah, they're there, but it's not like drawing attention to it. They showed some restraint here, which I think was actually kind of interesting.
I'm looking for Armando Rojas.
Rojas killed my brother. You can find him at the jungle ruins.
Ruins, huh?
Here's the key of the jungle gate.
Thank you. I'll see you later. We've been looking for you, ma'am. Are you injured?
No injuries, sir. Thank God you made it.
We need to get to the extraction point.
I can't wait to get out of this hellhole.
We'll have you out of here in no time.
For how bombastic and just edgy this game was, even down to its premise, like this is the one area that they actually showed some restraint in. I think the big selling point of this game, or what they felt was going to set them apart, were their animations, particularly for their soldiers. They worked for literal years on these animations, and I guess like some of them are pretty cool. It's stuff that you would eventually see in FPS games that would come out in the future, and the variance of animations is there. Like they absolutely put a lot of work into that, and you can tell, but again, it's in service of a game that is ultimately not very fun to play. The actual shooting mechanics have a long way to go, and the visuals were even still kind of poor for the year that it released in. Something I did find pretty hilarious though is that if you find these American flags in each level and pick them up, you get invincibility for 45 seconds. It's amazing. They had a few interesting ideas for some of the levels, like you needed to get this secret code for an elevator, and you needed to like disable their security system in this hacienda. What could have been an actual like interesting set piece ends up being just basically a giant basic box where you just need to run around to each room to collect the thing. There's not really much thought or attention to gameplay detail here. It's sort of just plays itself after a while, and the levels are incredibly one note. That's the only way to describe them. But you continue to push through these missions, hunt down higher and higher value targets until eventually you return back to Afghanistan. The whole game is leading up to this final moment, the last mission where you return to hunt down Bin Laden for the last time. The level begins with a small sniping segment and some completely random tasks, and then you enter his compound to take down his thugs before collecting a few important items and freeing that US prisoner of war. And then the final fight with Osama Bin Laden is just as stupid and as hilarious as you might imagine.
1,000 more will rise. Smoke you out one by one. It's our time. Kick your ass. Something alive.
Now, if you thought that was good, Bin Laden being apparently a martial arts master, what's even better is the final cutscene in which, after you've captured Bin Laden and escaping into the helicopter, keep in mind, I did not edit this part at all. This is actually how the ending plays out. And that right there is pretty much how the game ends. You captured and successfully detained Bin Laden, and Jake Seaver is an American hero. That's literally how the game ends. Now, I think the game is interesting enough to talk about, and obviously, martial arts with Bin Laden is not something that most people would assume would be in their video game, so it's special in that regard. But what's even more interesting are the bonus features attached to this disc, because they have a lot of stuff that I think not only explains how this got made, why it got made, and also a little bit of what happened after the fact. So if you have a look through the bonus features of the game, you can see that there's like a lot of their mocap videos and stuff like that, some of their earliest interviews, and even shooting commercials, right, making their real life content for this and all the promotional stuff. But there's also just super random videos as well. Like, I clicked on this one, and apparently there was just some guy named Mr. RE that they met that's like a freestyle rapper that I think they actually let him have a track in the game, but he's just like freestyling in their studio.
Never seen them like tick-tocking. Every time he's shocking, if you start to straight lock, they're stopping because they never seen nobody start to rapping and popping at the same time. Wanna rhyme, hold on, got the incline, roll on. When I find who I am, this ain't no scam. Come skills bigger like a dome. Who must be, baby, my parents to be.
He even has like multiple videos of him rapping, in their studio, going crazy on beats. It's just very, very random things in this bonus features, which I found very interesting personally. But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you see that there is a secret video. And when you watch this, you get a very candid discussion with John Body, the, studio head and creative mastermind of this game. And he basically explains how this really came about, and specifically what development was like between the year 2000 and 2002 for a game called Fugitive Hunter War on Terror.
When I saw planes flying into buildings, I realized that they were finishing the job. We give a lot of thought to actually, I don't know, maybe canceling the game because we were hunting fugitives. It wasn't a terrorist hunting game. In other words, you hunt fugitives that are wanted for 10 grand or 15 grand. What we wound up doing is really what President Bush said, is just carry on with your lives. Continue. Do not let these people interfere with our liberty. And so we basically took out the exchange place in New York levels for respect, obviously, and we continued with our game. go ahead and play Fugitive Hunter. It'll be out soon, and I hope you enjoy it. It's definitely been an experience.
Look, the game is obviously not good. There's no way you can slice this and objectively measure it as a good video game. It simply isn't. The level design is bad, the sound design is not good, the general game design is horrible, and it's just not really very fun either. It's interesting for sure, and it's certainly a product of its time, but it's not a good video game, like on any measure. Now, you might be wondering what happened to Black Ops Entertainment. Weirdly enough, it actually existed for many, many years after this. They did continue to put out a few more titles under their name, but it secretly and quietly became a mobile app developer, specifically making stock trading apps. Its most recent one being AI Trader in 2019. But since then, John Body and Black Ops Entertainment would be quietly dissolved. One of the reasons I made this video is because, like, not only did I find this game fascinating to talk about, as it's just such a weird anomaly of a bad video game, and I love that kind of stuff, but also I've been really interested in collecting old video games and having physical copies of these, because I want to preserve these kinds of experiences. Like, obviously, Sony getting rid of physical discs soon has caused a lot of trouble, and I think it's important that we have physical copies because we want to preserve not only the things we like, but also the things we don't like. If you enjoyed watching something like this and want to see more, please let me know, and if there's any other weird, obscure video games that you remember or know about that you think might make for a really good video, please let me know in the comments, as I'm always open to more suggestions and I read all of them, and I'll definitely look into as many as I can, and if there's something I think might make a good video, I'm definitely going to do it. But that's it for me. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.